45.1% say no. Really? 45% of Israeli Jews say they don't believe the Messiah is ever really, truly, literally coming to earth? Despite what the Bible says, despite what all the Hebrew prophets say, despite what most of the prominent rabbis have said over the centuries, nearly half of Israeli Jews have given up waiting. They don't even believe this is true anymore. For years, I have to say I've been frustrated by not seeing in Israeli media outlets the kind of polling on the kinds of questions that I most want to know about. So a few months ago, I decided not to wait any longer, but to have All Israel News help fund a sweeping benchmark survey of Israeli Jews. But I have to warn you, some of the results were shocking to me. I think they're going to be shocking to you. Others of the results were disappointing, and still others were quite encouraging. But little of it was what I expected. The survey was designed by two Jewish scholars, Dr. Mordechai Inbari, a professor in the Department of Philosophy and Religion at the University of North Carolina, Pembroke, and Dr. Carol Bueman, a professor in the Department of Political Science and International Studies at Stonehill College. While neither are followers of Jesus themselves, they're Jewish, and they have extensive experience studying what Jews and Christians think about religious matters and about each other in the United States. Indeed, I've worked with them on a number of past studies. But now they wanted to do a landmark survey in Hebrew of Israeli Jews. And my colleagues and I were more than happy to help them, provided that All Israel News and the Rosenberg Report had the first opportunity to report the results, which we started doing this week. The first story we published with this headline: how many Israelis believe Jews are chosen people as Bible describes? Far fewer than you might think, finds exclusive new poll. Upwards of 80% of evangelicals believe that Jews are the chosen people and that God not only chose Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but made specific promises to them and the Jewish people, the nation of Israel, that are valid for all time, according to a survey that my colleagues and I helped finance several years ago. Yet, as Israelis celebrate the 75th anniversary of the historic and prophetic rebirth of their modern state, it turns out that far fewer Israelis agree. This new survey finds that only 64% of Israeli Jews believe that Jews are the chosen people as described by the Bible. That's striking to me. 22.4% say no, they don't believe that Jews are the chosen people. And 13.4% say they don't know what they believe on this topic. To me, that's really astonishing that not even 2 out of 3 Israeli Jews living right here in the land of the Bible, in a country that God resurrected from the ashes of the Holocaust, believe what the Bible teaches, that Jews are chosen people by God who has given us this promised land. What's particularly intriguing about the results of the survey is the enormous gulf, a chasm really, between Jewish right-wing voters on this topic and Jewish left-wing voters here in Israel. For example, 95.6% of Israelis who voted for Orthodox religious parties say they do believe that Jews are the chosen people as described in the Bible. Not surprising, 86.7% of Israelis who voted for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's party, Likud party, also say they believe that Jews are the chosen people. Again, that's not surprising. But here's what's surprising. By sharp contrast, only 35% of Israeli Jews who voted for any of the opposition parties, including the centrist Yesh Atid party led by Yair Lapid, and the center-right National Statesmanship Party led by Benny Gantz, believe that Jews are the chosen people. And 43% of these voters who voted for the opposition say they don't believe this at all. They don't believe that Jews are the chosen people. Wow. And only 13.8% of Israeli Jews who voted specifically for the left-wing parties like Meretz and Labor believe that Jews are the chosen people according to the Bible, while 65% of those voting for left-wing parties say they don't believe the Jews are the chosen people. That's really amazing. And I also found it noteworthy just how many Israelis told the pollsters that they're not even sure what they believe on this issue. 22% of opposition party voters say they don't know if Jews are the chosen people. 23.1% of left-wing party voters also said they don't know. Maybe not surprisingly, only 7.3% of Likud voters don't know what they believe. And again, not surprisingly, a mere 2.8% of voters for the Orthodox religious parties said they don't know what they believe on this topic. Now, here's another set of results that stunned me even more than that one. The second story we published was with this headline: "Giving up on Messiah? Shocking new survey finds nearly half of Israeli Jews do not believe Messiah will ever really come to earth." One of the most important themes running throughout the entire Hebrew Bible is that the God of Israel repeatedly promised to send Messiah to earth one day to redeem the Jewish people and rule Israel and the entire world. Obviously, the world's 2.6 billion Christians, myself included, believe that Jesus of Nazareth is the Messiah and that he's coming back to earth one day in the last days of history right here in Jerusalem. Also obvious, the vast majority of Jews worldwide and here in Israel do not believe that Jesus is the Messiah. I get that. I'm not happy about it, but I get it. But what stunned me was the answer to this question: do you believe the Messiah is coming? Now, this new survey found that a mere 54.9% of Israeli Jews say yes, they believe the Messiah is coming. Wow. 45.1% say no. Really? 45% of Israeli Jews say they don't believe the Messiah is ever really, truly, literally coming to earth? Despite what the Bible says, despite what all the Hebrew prophets say, despite what most of the prominent rabbis have said over the centuries, nearly half of Israeli Jews have given up waiting. They don't even believe this is true anymore, that the Messiah is coming. And that's sad to me. As a Jew on my father's side, as an Israeli, and as one who believes that Jesus, Yeshua in Hebrew, is the Messiah, it's sad to me to think that more than 3 million Israeli Jews, they're not even looking for the Messiah because they don't think he's coming, and they're certainly not debating over whether Yeshua is the expected one. We're going to need to examine this more carefully on a future show, but I wanted to share it with you tonight, and I want to ask you to pray that my people would not only rediscover the Bible and Bible prophecies about the Messiah, but that my people would develop a new hunger, a new seriousness about discovering just who the Messiah really is. Take a look at this story we just published on All Israel News. Fewer than 20% of Israeli Jews have a positive opinion of evangelicals. Why? As tens of millions of evangelical Christians in the U.S. and around the world celebrate Israel's 75th anniversary this year, many will be surprised, even shocked, that the vast majority of Israeli Jews do not have a positive opinion of them. And it's not as if half of Israelis see evangelicals as positive and the other half doesn't. That's not even close. According to this exclusive story on All Israel News, based on this new survey being released just this week, only 17.5%, let me say that again, only 17.5% of Israeli Jews say they have a positive view of evangelicals. Now, this number includes two elements. 11.8% of Israeli Jews say they have a good opinion of evangelicals, and 5.7% say they have a very good opinion of evangelicals. Combine that number, that's where you get 17.5. Now, to be clear, it's not that most Israelis are hostile towards evangelicals, okay? Not at all. Only 6.7% say they have a poor opinion of evangelicals, and only 5.2% say they have a very poor opinion of evangelicals. One striking factor that jumps out of the data is that young Israelis are notably more negative towards evangelicals, and older Israelis are notably more positive. It turns out that 14.2% of Israelis between the ages of 18 and 29 say they have a poor to very poor view of evangelicals. By contrast, 26.4% of Israeli Jews ages 65 and over have a positive view of evangelicals. I'd encourage you to go to All Israel News and study the data more closely for yourself. But I have to be candid with you, I was really caught off guard by these numbers, and I was disappointed. My impression in recent years, certainly since living here over almost 10 years, has been that Israelis increasingly see evangelical Christians as a source of great blessing to Israel and the Jewish people. After all, 54%, more than half of all tourists who come to Israel are Christians, according to the Israeli Ministry of Tourism. American evangelicals were instrumental in persuading President Donald J. Trump to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv. Evangelical ministries such as the Joshua Fund, the one that my wife and I founded in 2006, have invested significantly to care for Israelis living at or below the poverty line with humanitarian relief. For all these reasons and many more, Israeli TV, radio, print, and digital news sites have actually been filled with fairly positive stories about Christians and in general, and evangelicals in particular, over the past decade or so. Why then are the vast majority of Israelis unsure about what they think about evangelicals? It's a question we're going to have to examine very closely, and we're going to do that on the Rosenberg Report and, of course, on All Israel News over the next few weeks and months. We're going to talk to experts, including the two Jewish professors who designed the survey to dig deeper into the data and try to understand what it all means. For now, one thing is clear. Evangelical Christians have a great deal of work still to do in the years ahead to demonstrate our true and unconditional love and support for Israel, to answer questions and concerns that Israelis have about us, and to diffuse misconceptions that they may have.